Yes.
These Israelites are saying that the gospel is not in effect. You people that listen to that false doctrine, these are immature men with the Bible. Okay, they came out of One West, total immature men with the Bible. Okay, they're unwashed. Did not receive the gospel. If you did not receive the gospel, we can tell you today you have been rejected by God. We're going to show you that. Brother Crozon?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's read this link, Lahab.
Yeah.
Christ has become of no effect unto you. Whosoever of you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace.
You don't have the grace now. Okay? You don't have, meaning you don't have the grace to get into the kingdom.
Yeah.
Grace is what's getting us into the kingdom, not the law. I mean, God decided to have mercy on Israel because they couldn't keep the law and give them the kingdom anyway.
Yeah.
Because of his love. He's showing his love to us now, to give us the kingdom anyway because we couldn't keep the laws. So he's being a true father to us. He's showing his fathership. Okay? And Christ is showing his sonship to lay down his life for the sins of Israel and the sins of the whole world. That was the love of God revealed unto mankind. And you that have rejected that and rejected the grace and said that you can live, right?
Yeah.
You can live by holding the Mosaic law. Yeah. Go ahead, Brother Crozon.
God said you're fallen from grace.
Yes.
Meaning this, man, you've turned your back on what heaven is doing for you because man failed. The Israelites failed. Mankind failed in their attempts and when in God's command to live uprightly. So God saw the failure of man. That's okay. We're going to make a new covenant. Christ, you're going to die for their sins. And we're going to put them under the grace. And our grace is going to transform them. Our grace is going to renew them. Our grace is going to wash them. Our grace is going to regenerate them. Our grace is going to resurrect them. And for you to turn to your works, Lord, let me read this right here.
Go ahead, yeah.
There's a note in the Expository Bible Dictionary.
Yeah, let's deal with it.
To turn to the law as a pathway to spiritual growth is to reject the pathway of grace.
Right, see that? Let's not that. Read that again, brother.
To turn to the law as a pathway to spiritual growth is to reject the pathway of grace.
The pathway is grace. That's why Christ said, "Walk in the faith." That's the pathway. If you take the Mosaic law, you took the walk into destruction. You walked into condemnation. You walked into the curse of the law. Christ was a guide to this, not you. You Israelites are trying to be the guide to this Bible. You're not the guide to this Bible. We want everybody in the world to know that these Israelites that come out of One West and these Israelite groups, they're not the guide to this Bible. The guide to this Bible is Christ, the King of Israel, and the Father that sent him. He is his breakdown.
Go ahead.
Is his doctrine.
His precept.
His precept.
Go ahead.
Not these Israelite precepts that's teaching in this world today.
Go ahead.
So go ahead, Brother Crozon.
To turn to the law as a pathway to spiritual growth. See, man sees his carnality. Man sees his need. Man sees his deficiency in his sensuality. But God is showing you to turn to the law as a pathway to spiritual growth is to reject the pathway of grace.
Right.
To struggle to keep the law is to cut oneself off from Jesus.
Right, see that? So by you keeping the law in the Passover and the High Holy Days, you have cut yourself off from Jesus. Yeah. Meaning if you cut yourself off from Jesus, you cut yourself out of the kingdom of heaven.
Look at this.
Let everybody understand this on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
Whether you be Jew or Gentile. To reject Christ and keep the old covenant is to cut yourself off from Christ, the Father in Christ. So that means you cut off. You brothers that are in these camps, that understand these things, you got to leave these things and return to the grace of Christ to enter into the kingdom of heaven. It's by his grace, by his blood, and by the grace of the Father. It's not by the law anymore. If you don't understand this, you're going to face head on the powers of God. Head on. So go ahead, Brother Crozon.
The Lord said, God explained to Paul, it said the law worketh wrath. So as you keep trying to struggle to keep the law, you're working wrath against yourself. That's why Christ came and put you under the grace. You have to listen to what the doctrine, what was expounded to Israel, the light that God gave you. It said, where there's no law, there's no transgression. So I'm moving you from your faults. I'm moving you from you not measuring up to this. I'm moving you from your falling and slipping and backsliding. And I'm putting you under grace that's going to transform you. That's going to wash you.
Right.
That's going to renew you. That's going to make you upright. But to turn to the law as the pathway of spiritual growth, meaning to reject what the gospel is saying and keep the Mosaic covenant, Hear what it says right here? Is to reject the pathway of grace.
Reject the pathway. There's one pathway, and that's the pathway of the grace of God unto you. The salvation of Christ, the new covenant, that's the pathway, and the pathways of grace, meaning you can't bring the high holy days, you can't bring the Passover with you, you can't put that in your pocket and bring that with you. No, you got to take it all off. Like Paul said, he counted it all but dung.
Yes.
Okay, you got to take it all off and receive the grace of God. But what they trying to say, Brother Cross, the reason that God has given us a grace, because every man is in the vile body.
Yeah.
Christ came not only to save the Israelites from the laws of Moses, but from the fall of Adam that brought us into the vile body, that brought the sin upon us to begin with. So every man on this earth that's in a body and that is breathing is in the body of sin.
Yes.
Period.
Go ahead.
How did you end up in this body? At the fall of Adam. In the fall of Adam, all men died. You died from what? You died from the spirit of righteousness, from the spirit of love, from the spirit of mercy, from the spirit of grace, from the spirit of the righteous laws of God, the righteous consciousness. You died from that. Meaning that you can't, if you dead from that, then how do you know how to do it?
Go ahead.
How do you know how to walk in it if you're dead from that? That's why every nation have fallen since after the flood. Every nation have fallen for the same reason. Okay? Because of the vile body of the fall of Adam. Man cannot live up to the righteousness. So God nailed the law to the cross because the time had come now for the kingdom of heaven to be given to the Jews first, and then the Gentiles. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. When Christ told the apostles, told them to teach the gospel to the end of the world, he said, go unto the end of the world and teach the gospel and teach that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Meaning that the time had come for the kingdom to be merciful unto you. The time had come for the kingdom to give you grace. That's why the seven spirits before the throne, Brother Crowell, said grace and peace, because the time had come to give mankind grace and peace from God, from the throne of God, from the highest powers in the universe, from the Father himself, and from Christ, from the seven spirits, from the angels in heaven, from the 24 elders. That time is here.